I have a very odd video that I want to watch. So, do any of you know someone on YouTube? Sorry, I can't speak. By the name of Any Austin, like ANY Austin, because I have watched this man talk about rivers in Skyrim for about 45 minutes, and then proceeded to watch another video about rivers in Zelda for about 45 minutes. And he made a 17-minute video on strange details in Call of Duty's most atmospheric missions. And I feel like I need to watch it because this man is about to talk for 17 minutes about the atmosphere in missions of Call of Duty. I feel like I might need to move my face.
Bow 6 maps will make a good capture the flag mode kind.
Potentially. Yeah, I don't even know if they're going to have capture the flag at launch, honestly. I don't know. Anyway, you're going to learn about this character here, and I don't know how he makes videos like this. I might need to make my face a little bit bigger because I actually think the video is going to, or sorry, smaller, just because I think it's going to be important to see everything on this one. So I'll be a little bit smaller, but you'll see what I'm talking about here.
Right behind me, there are some guys who are about to break into somebody's house for some reason. We're supposed to head back there so they can start their mission, but what
Clean
if
house,
instead
of course.
we didn't? What if we just stood right here and took in the atmosphere? What would we find? We'd find one of the most atmospheric missions ever in a Call of Duty game, and one of
So side note, when I went to go... Okay, cool, YouTube. Yeah, just restart the video. I didn't want to watch it anyway. When we went to go see Modern Warfare 2019 early, this is the mission that they showed us. And everyone's like, holy, like the amount of detail in this mission is ridiculous. Like from everything from walking in on into the mission and like going down that hallway or alleyway and having garbage everywhere. And I'm sure he'll get in much more detail with it, but it's wild. And this is what they showed us. And we're like,
of a real life space in any game, but it's probably not for the reasons you think. One of the reasons, for example, is that the stars in the sky are weirdly blurry and all of them are smeared. Why would they do that? I'll tell you about that later. This is a mission called Clean House from the hit 2019 video game Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and it's the first time in a long time that the Call of Duty series has had a mission transcend the micro-zeitgeist of its release to leave a lasting impression on the wider culture, which really just means like YouTube gamers. But, you know, other examples of this include the Normandy mission from Call of Duty 2, several missions from Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and No Russian from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. But until Clean House, I would argue that it had been at least a decade since the franchise had been able to break free from the inbuilt apathy of annualized releases. So what made this mission stand out so much? Why has it gotten so much attention? I unironically think that a big part of it is that if you enable the night vision in the game, screenshots of it look ridiculously realistic in a YouTube thumbnail. I mean, look at the reveal trailer of the game. There's a reason they used that image. But a lot of it, of course, also has to do with the environment design. So this is where the mission starts. Like I said earlier, what we're supposed to do is head up that way so that the mission can continue. But if we don't, and this is one of my favorite things about games like Call of Duty, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, everything just stops. Time effectively freezes, but we can move around freely, which gives you an opportunity to start soaking in so many details, both realistic and not so realistic. For example, inside the house, there are plates on the table with food remnants. In the back alley, there's a can of automotive paint on the ground. In the basement of the house, there's a pair of extremely high-quality breathable underwear. Wait a second, what brand are those? Oh my God. Are those Me Undies? Listen, I had to. It was the transition. It was too good. It wasn't even that good. I don't think those are actually underpants. But all of those other details in the game were true. And there's a ton more. But I have to tell you about underpants now because the timer...
That would have been way more hilarious if it just wasn't sponsored at all.
...is ticking, and I don't want Me Undies to feel like I took advantage of them by using too much of their segment to talk about things that aren't their undies. Like, for example, how this sink doesn't have a drain pipe. I do like their underwear, though. I'm wearing them right now. Look. Actually, don't look. I'm not that guy. Me Undies is one of those products that makes me feel very dumb for not like remembering that there's such a thing as high quality things. You know what I mean? Like if you buy nice underwear, they're actually better than cheap underwear. Me Undies also said I should talk about how cute your butt will look in their underwear, but I don't feel comfortable objectifying you like that because I don't know you. So if they ask, I said it, but I didn't. I'm sure you look great though. But I'm just saying it's none of my business. It's just a giant high quality underwear store. Okay? I don't know what you want from me. Do you want some high quality underwear at a discounted price that benefits your favorite YouTuber? Do you want to be your most comfortable self this fall with MeUndies? Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/AnyAustin. That's MeUndies.com/AnyAustin, link below. Anyway, so all of these intricate details are very impressive. They add to the feel of the world, and they deserve to be talked about in depth. But these are the details that the developer...
These details are absolutely unreal, because you are going to this safe house in this game and you were going there because this is where Alcatala had planned their attack on Piccadilly Circus, and you go in and you see all of this information, and it's a wild amount, like the layout of the underground and everything. Like, it's
developers really thought about and put in the game intentionally, and sometimes it's in those things that you don't think too hard about where the art really expresses itself. So I want to start by taking a look at something in this mission that I'm sure no player has ever taken a good look at, and that I'm not really sure that the developers have taken a close look at: the sky. Now you might be thinking, who cares? It's just some stars. No, it's not. Look again. It's blurry, and it's blurry in a really weird way. The stars are all streaky, all in the same direction, just a little bit, and the left side of each star is just a little bright pinpoint. This is not a clear stock photograph of a night sky. This is something else. But what? And why? The effect is sort of similar to a very short version of those long exposure photographs of the night sky that you can find in like National Geographic, you know, the ones with the stars, how they make big circular patterns, and it's always like the most beautiful vista you've ever seen. You'll notice in those photos that stars closer or further to the center of rotation will leave shorter or longer streaks as the exposure continues. So if this skybox from Call of Duty is a real long exposure photograph, we should see the same effect. Some stars should have longer tails and some should have shorter tails. And we do. Sort of. It's subtle, but the stars further in this direction have shorter tails than the ones in this direction. To make things even weirder, there's another level in this game that uses a nighttime skybox, but that level has just a normal, non-smudgy nighttime skybox. It even has real constellations in it. You can see Orion. So they had one, but they didn't use it. I'm hugely curious what the story here is, because no matter how you interpret it, Infinity Ward, the developers, either did something a little sloppy and didn't notice, or they did notice and they put it in the game anyway, or it was an intentional artistic choice. Either way, I'm a big fan. This skybox really adds a surreal, frozen in time feeling to the space because you see the mechanics of the photograph itself. If the sky looked perfectly realistic, we might believe we're in a living, breathing world, but because we can clearly see it's a photograph and that it's a frozen moment in time, which all photographs are, suddenly the world feels way too still and a little bit eerie. The sound design is very good as well.
I bet you that wasn't on purpose, but he makes a good point.
The train going by. They could have easily set the mission in a much more gamifiable area like a warehouse or during...
So this mission is a perfect example of how detail and small, intricate, intimate, really, missions can be so much better than large scale missions. This mission is like 9 minutes long, if that, but it's one of the best missions of all time. Now, let me ask you a question. If you played a Call of Duty campaign, and let's say it had an hour long of cutscenes and an hour long of gameplay, but the entirety of that gameplay was as good as Clean House, would that be a good Call of Duty campaign?
A much more dramatic weather event like a thunderstorm, but the choice to put it in a residential neighborhood on a clear, calm, weird night is super important for the atmosphere, whether you notice the strange frozen skybox or not. And I'm not going to dive into it really, but it also enhances the moment in the narrative because this is a very high stakes mission that's meant to feel very tense. It has you going through a house, making quick choices.
And it does feel
about
tense.
Who's
the first time you play this mission,
not ostensibly putting you in a position where you could make serious mistakes. Ostensibly. In practice, like most Call of Duty games, it works out more like playing Time Crisis than an actual interactive ethical dilemma, and the stakes really aren't that high because the game checkpoints every 10 seconds. It can be fun, but not unlike a lot.
I still think that this is the closest to Call of Duty missions ever come to that.
A lot of big budget games, they kind of end up tying their shoelaces together in the execution. You know, the story of Call of Duty games... there's a lot to talk about, like the ethics or lack of ethics in the series, its role as military propaganda, whatever. All of that is worthy of discussion for sure. And if you're curious about that, I highly recommend these two videos. But I'm going to stick to this very specific topic of atmosphere and environment design. Now, before we take a look inside the Clean House itself, one more detail to show you outside. Whoa, 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 whoa! There's an airplane. Dang, and it even has the green on one side, the red on the other side. Like, that's just amazing. I'm absolutely blown away by that. Oh no, there's another one that's going that way. The fact that it's 2 airplanes and that they go different directions, it brings me such joy. That's such a pointless, inexplicable detail to add. It's not lore related. It's not even clever. It's not even really noticeable. I love it. And I think this is pretty high up there on the list of games that capture exactly what it looks and feels like to see a commercial airliner flying above you at night. Here's a side-by-side with some real footage I took the other night. This is a really good representation of that, which there's no reason to ever make a good representation of that very specific thing, but they did. All right, let's go inside the house.
3 SAS teams will get inside and connect the dots. If the Wolf is in possession of the stolen Russian gas in Urzikstan, we need to find him.
A lot has been made about this house. It's a great house. The visual design, the audio design, it's all really tense,
wonderful
immersive,
house.
And grounded.
Some say
it has
the best
same
house.
feel as the house in Resident Evil 7, or maybe even more so the one in PT, if you remember that demo. And it might be tempting to just assume that what makes all of these video game houses so immersive is that the developers took more time to add more, better detail. But that's not quite true. All 3 of these uncanny houses share in common a quality that very few video game houses have. They're the right size. Infinity Ward developers actually
this is the one thing that they talked to us about when we were at Modern Warfare 2019 early. When you're in that house, it actually feels like the proper size. Like the roof is the right amount of distance above your character, so it doesn't feel like you're just in this like big wide open area. And they nailed it in that mission better than maybe
about this in detail in a 2019 interview with YouTube channel GameBrain, citing their desire to achieve a 1-to-1 scale with reality as being a high priority for them.
1-to-1 scale is the major answer.
And they also drop a very interesting little bit of knowledge.
All previous games that have tried to show what it's like to do a night raid or to clean a house, they all do what we call video game scale, which is about 30% larger than real world scale.
Now, I've heard this before, and there are YouTube videos about it, but I've never actually checked it myself. So let's do that. Here's a doorway from 2007's Modern Warfare with a guy standing in it. Here's a doorway from 2019's Modern Warfare with another guy standing in it. This old doorway is very big, so fair enough. I think we don't realize how small real doorways are because our spatial awareness in real life is a lot better than it is in a video game, so we don't need nearly as much room to effectively move around. But when you put these side by side, it almost seems egregious. It makes me want to build a real house 30% too big and then have people over for a dinner party and see if anyone notices. Maybe I'll do that for a YouTube video. I'll build a 10% too big house and a 20% too big house and a 30% and keep going until people are like, wait, what the hell's wrong with your house? Also, check out this gigantic bathroom in this house from the older game. This is how you can tell they really weren't hyper-focused on gritty realism back then, because there's no way this room was meant to be a bathroom from the get-go. This would be such an insane way to have a bathroom. Now, this true-to-life scale is also a part of PT and Resident Evil 7, and in that same previously cited interview, the developers of this mission specifically name-dropped those 2 games as inspirations for the
I didn't actually know that.
So I'm not just pulling them out of thin air. It does make me wonder what other games have realistically proportioned doorways. I assume something like Red Dead Redemption does, but beyond that, I'm not really sure. Post your realistically proportioned doorway games in the comments below. Maybe we'll make a video about that sometime. The question that I'm not really sure of the answer to is...
Remember when I was saying that I've watched this guy make videos about like ridiculous things? Like where he's saying that maybe you should post like video games with realistic doors. He legitimately would make a video on doors. Like actually. Like
why being in a realistically proportioned environment makes us feel so odd in a video game. My best guess is that it's just because smaller areas are more claustrophobic and peripheral vision in a video game is non-existent, so it just feels too small to move around in. That, plus the fact that if you've been playing video games for a longer period of time, you'll have gotten used to the bloated scale in other games, so it'll be even more obvious that things here are shrunk down. But I'm honestly not totally sure. Okay, so what other weird details are there in this house? Let's run down a list of my favorites. You enter through the kitchen window, which is a little unconventional, but guys dressed like this typically are. The first funny detail I noticed, the garbage cans in the house are empty. Every single one in the entire
keep the house clean.
I might be able to buy this if it was only 1 or 2 people that lived here, but there are 15 people staying in this one house. No shot the garbage cans would be this clean, especially when the baby diaper hamper looks like it hasn't been emptied since they moved in.
Well, maybe it was
this is the
garbage
chemical weapon they were talking about.
Wolf is in possession of the stolen
fruit
Russian
fly
gas
and I
in
hate it.
Urzikstan.
PU. Next, let's look at the bookshelves. You'll notice that there's an awful lot of these economics books sitting around. Listen, I like economics as much as the next conventional human man, but even I was shocked at how many they had. They have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9,
Yeah, actually.
but 52 economics textbooks in their house.
And are they
That's
all
a
the same?
lot of economics. The second most common book in this house is A History of the World, of which there are 12 copies. Speaking of
went through and
bookshelves, there are
counted all
two
the
bookshelves
books.
that are identical here, and they have identical books on them in this one room. The developers did a remarkable job of adorning this whole house with lots of bespoke details and making each room feel unique. So it's fun to see them do something lazy, like copy-paste a piece of furniture. We approve of this. I also found this wire plugged into a wall that doesn't connect to anything, and it actually goes right through this plastic box.
Fair
This
enough.
is confusing to me because why even put the wire there then? Like, who goes out of their way to model a wire and then not model what it connects to? Just take out the wire, but actually leave it in because I like it. I counted that this house had 15 people living in it, or it did before I played the mission. And I was curious if there was enough beds for all of those, so I counted all the beds. There are 8 places to sleep for sure, assuming 2 people in each bed, plus 2 couches, and there are 14 adults staying in this house. So
Maybe
it's
they
not
were
technically
visitors.
enough, but I like the added detail of having this room with a bunch of makeshift mattresses on the floor because it really makes it feel like they put too many people in here for their little, they were having a little meeting. It doesn't matter. And they
crib.
just had to come up with
The
some
crib,
sort of
good
perfect
point.
solution, so they just
forgot
threw a
about
bunch
the
of
crib.
mattresses in this extra room. And then my last 2 favorite details come by looking out the window. If you look way out in the distance, you'll see this tiny little sliver of some sort of wider city. It's very obviously just like a flat skybox, but you know, I love that stuff. And then secondly, if you wait long enough for the train to go by, the train is completely empty. There's not a soul
it's
on
nighttime.
board, which
It's
is not
nighttime.
impossible, but it is pretty creepy. The funny thing is, though, I'm not all that sure how much these sorts of details that I just showed you actually substantively contribute to the atmosphere of the mission. You know what I mean?
I think it
would
definitely
be really
does.
easy for me to YouTube essay my way into a conclusion by saying something like, all of these details may not be noticed by you consciously, but your brain notices them, and it makes you feel unsettled because it's not quite right. But would that actually be true? Like, obviously I can say it and it sounds like it could be true, but that would be saying that if we like filled up these trash cans and increased the variety of books, that the mission suddenly wouldn't feel uncanny anymore. I doubt it. I don't think it's that simple.
I don't
And to be
agree with
honest,
that either.
I'm
Okay.
gonna come clean. I just wanted to show you all this weird stuff I found because I thought it was cool. But regardless,
Well,
you can't
that's what I
deny that
think
this
as well.
mission has a feel. It does have a real atmosphere. Call of Duty has been weirdly good at this type of thing for a long time, and it generally doesn't get credit for it
Not
because
that
the
good.
Venn diagram of people who like obvious army propaganda and people who like making little observations about odd places in video games is the overlap is approximately one person,
and it's him.
me. But these games, the good ones anyway, have always been incredibly immersive and engaging environmentally, and a lot of that work gets pumped into sequences that are over in a few minutes or less.
Exactly.
The developers of Clean House said that the average playtime for this mission is about 8 minutes.
I said
That's a
9.
lot of
That was pretty
details for
solid
such a
guess.
short mission. And it's not just Clean House. In one of the recent trailers for Call of Duty Black Ops 6, there's a section of gameplay that takes place on the back of a motorcycle speeding through the streets of Washington
I know what he's going to talk about here. Pay attention to this. This is really cool.
DC in the 90s. And while watching it, I was totally floored by it. All of this work for 20 seconds of gameplay. You know, it'd be one thing if these were just low quality stock
No. And it's not because, they rendered... Watch. If he goes into this the way that I think he is, watch this. If not, I will show you.
assets in the background from whatever asset website, or just some low effort buildings meant to sort of feel vaguely Washington-y, but they're not. You know how I know they're not? Because I figured out where this takes place in Washington, DC, and then I used the trailer to trace the path of the motorcycle
This is
through the
wild.
streets and compare what we see in the trailer to what's actually there in real life Washington, DC. And it's get ready. So the building from the trailer is Union Station in Washington, D.C. They call it Capitol Station in the trailer, but it's not. It's Union Station. Look at this. It's clear as day. They're the same thing. The motorcycle breaks through the front doors, goes out, around the statue and the flagpoles, then gets
so
cut
cool.
off by the feds, turns right, and then turns right again at the end of the block to come around the west side of Union Station. So it would be right here on the map if you look on Google. If you watch the trailer carefully, you'll see so many things done with care. The flagpoles, the grassy area, the fountain. It's awesome. But the greatest detail in this trailer comes a little further in the sequence. Let's freeze frame the shot right here. Look carefully at this. Just take this in for a second. Let me get out of the way. Now what I'm going to do is show you the street view of real life Washington, D.C. in the exact same spot.
Look at the buildings. Look at the buildings.
Holy cow. Even down to the little vents and the parking garage outlets. These are not stock game development assets. These are bespoke
they
models
probably went
of
and
the city.
scanned the
and on
street,
top
honestly.
of that, perhaps the most incredible thing about this whole trailer, this building on the left. Do you have any idea what that building is? This is, and I'm not joking, this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the real life Bureau of Labor Statistics, which means we got lore accurate Bureau of Labor Statistics in a video game before Grand Theft Auto 6. If you don't know why I'm so excited about that, you have some catching up to do on the channel. So, you know, there's a lot of justifiable cynicism about Call of Duty. And honestly, most of it I agree with pretty fervently. And it's not fair to pretend that this entry in the series 2019's Modern Warfare is your average Call of Duty game. By all accounts, it was the best one they made in years. And in the 5 years hence, they've made some real stinkers.
Yes,
which certainly doesn't help the case for the series being worth paying close attention to. So honestly, maybe I won't go so far as to say that we've given Call of Duty an unfair shake. I've actually probably been excessively generous given how ridiculously money-hungry, anti-consumer, and historically revisionist the series is. But there's something about the vibe that I think is worth celebrating, even if we do it very quietly in a corner after spending the day being rightfully critical of the series. I'm Annie Austin. Thanks for watching.
Black Ops 6 in-depth details video is a must. I'm assuming he will if all of the missions are like that. If you have not checked out this guy, I'll actually go to his channel. His name's Annie Austin. This is 1 month ago. Where do Hyrule's rivers go? He spends an entire 30 minutes going through the rivers of a game. What is Windhelm's unemployment rate? He goes to a village in Skyrim and figures out how many people there actually have jobs. Where do Skyrim's rivers come from? If you like details, this is the detail man. This is the guy. This is the dude. He is the guy that you want on your side. And yeah, check out his channel. He's autism at its finest. Yes. His name should be Annie Autism. He's awesome. Like, go check out his channel. I don't normally give that highly of a review to a channel, but he nails it. He nails it hard.